Hey guys, Majin Obama here, and today I wanted to talk about a huge event that just went down in Japan for Street Fighter 6. I gotta talk about this legend, this event brought to you by Shaka, one of the biggest streamers in Japan. This was a huge event, and you know, if you're not a stranger to this channel, then you know between me and June, we've been talking about this shit for over a year. We put pen to paper, we've run our own events that kind of take inspiration from some of these events. You guys have seen Jam Slam and the success that has had this year. This event was kind of a major game changer to close out the year for Street Fighter 6 in Japan. On the heels of Capcom Pro Tour, CPT Japan, and big event in Dominican Republic that we just had, a World Warrior event from Japan that was held on Sunday, this previous Sunday, and the CPT events that have been almost like weekend after weekend after weekend. But this event was huge, and I'll just show you this to even just give you an idea. This was before the event started. It was already trending on Twitter in Japan. Look at these viewership numbers, man. This event, I don't know if this was the peak, but it probably not. I'm lowballing here. Just off the top 4 or 5 channels on YouTube restreaming it, it had 130,000 views basically, and even on Twitch side, I mean, it had, I think at some point later in the evening, it had like 160k, 170k. This event had well over 300,000 live viewerships, with the main channel for the event on Twitch alone netting close to 100,000. Like I said, this was a big event, and a lot of people were probably wondering, well, why? Well, the truth is, again, we've been telling you about this stuff. This is not an isolated event in Japan. These events have been going on for a year. The collaboration events, I'll link another video where I talked about it one last year that happened, but they've been running these over and over again, and a lot of the casts in these are the same people in some cases. And what's really cool about them is seeing how, alongside the pro players that they've been collabing with on these events, the players have been growing into where these stopped being beginner tournaments almost like months or a year ago. Now they're just players now, and these are some of the biggest content creators, biggest YouTubers, streamers in Japan. I just want to highlight real quick just some things, cool things about the event. Right off the bat, you got to take a look at just the promotional materials, the way they put this out there. Shaka, again, one of the biggest streamers in Japan, but he got this collab event. Basically, instead of it being 5-man teams or something like that, which, you know, he's run a Street Fighter 6 event, collab event, I think last year. This is part of his Legends series. These are his personal events. Basically, so far it's been Street Fighter 6 and Left 4 Dead 2, funny enough, actually, that he's run. But this one was a little bit different. This one felt like a much bigger deal. This was held at Korakuen Hall. If you're not familiar, basically pro wrestling events, kickboxing, but also especially boxing. This is one of the most traditional venues and kind of like storied venues in Tokyo for this kind of event, and they hosted it there. So you see him with the ringside shot. The concept behind this event was 2-man teams, and like the first Legends event, it's based on one character play. So for example, YY in this case is the bigger streamer and talent, but Takagi is the top player, or the pro player, quote unquote, for Japan. So they team up to form a kind of teacher-pupil dynamic, and through training, and then they participate on the day in an adjusted Waseda style format. Kanai, one of the biggest VTubers in Japan, teamed up with Kazunoko. You had Obo teaming up with Haitani, Team Chun-Li, Team Kami, Team Blanca. Kuzuha and Bonchan, they played as Team Goki. Dompisha, Higuchi, Team Guile. Sasatik and Naruo, Team Jamie. Futon-chan and Mago, Team Jury. Zerost and Nauman, Team Ken. Shaka and himself entered the event as well, and he teamed up with Tachikawa on Team Anon. Shinji-san and Junior ended up playing Zangief together, and they played really, really well. There were a few teams that had some pretty, intense moments and stuff like that, but overall, yeah, I mean, they got the best casting team, Aru and Hamiko in Japan, and they even they let Kokujin tap in too, that was overall, this event was really good just in terms of like promotion, but also production and the live event. Like, man, I was kicking myself that I didn't try to go, to be honest with you, but it was really tight. Here's a shot of the venue. Take a look at that. That's sick, right? And if anything, this is like a preview of what we're gonna get at Capcom Cup when they go to Yogoku, which is of course the traditional and famous sumo arena, and also has its own history as a venue for Street Fighter events. But man, this was a special event, and I'll show you a little bit about it too. Basically, even everything from the intros, they were letting people cut promos on each other. The idea of this event was a little bit more intimate, and I think Shaka himself requested that people, try to be, cut some promos on each other and kind of just, feel the atmosphere a little bit. But here, I'll show you one moment that I thought was pretty moving. Mago and Futon-chan versus Takagi and YY. But Futon-chan ends up winning, and he and Mago together end up moving on through the bracket. But check out this emotion, bro. It's just like, it's a lot of the same it's a lot of what we've been saying, you know, usually these kinds of team events and team collaborations, it does something in terms of motivation where you're not just fighting for yourself, but you're fighting to like not let down your teammates. And this plays out in a really cool way where in this case, the teammates are players that we know and love, and they don't want to let those guys down, especially after they've been grinding and practicing for weeks or days. But you see why this is, you know, like this is supposed to be a for fun event, you know, and then like people are digging real deep and getting kind of serious with this stuff. But also some of these players, especially watching them grow throughout the year last year and then seeing them where they are now, some of these players have gotten good. Like they know what they're doing, man. It's to the point where a lot of them, you know, have pretty high MR in Japanese online rankings. And like I said, you see both of these guys in tiers. This was not a $1 million tournament. This was not to qualify for a $1 million tournament. This was just them chopping it up in front of a live audience at Korakuen Hall. But it was cool because there was a lot of back and forth, like, you know, friendly shit talk, let's say. Friendly, like, promo cutting and intros and stuff like that to the matches. But I just wanted to say, man, you got to tip your hat off. I'll link the video in the description to this video where you guys can watch it on your own. You know, there is a language barrier, of course, or you can boot up my stream. I restreamed this event with Chris F. We translated it a little bit. Or you could just watch it raw and you could just watch it play out, watch it with the chat on, and just see how ham this game has gone in Japan, you know? It highlights the difference between where we talk about this game in the West and it's like, okay, yeah, for fighting games, it's doing really well, blah, 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 blah. But in Japan, with the way this game has gone, and it's on the backs of a lot of events like this one, this game has hit a stratosphere point. I gotta reiterate, it's not considered in conversations as, okay, well, for fighting games, it's doing well. No, they're mentioning this game right up there with the Valorants, with the Grand Theft Auto role plays, with the Apexes, with the Minecrafts, all those other games. This game is huge right now in Japan. It's really just on a different level, and it's on the backs of events like this one, I think. And ultimately, the people, I gotta reiterate this, re-emphasize it, I should say. Ultimately, the people who are benefiting, I think, the most from this kind of stuff, it's cool, you know, of course, for Shaka and his team, they get to run another event. You know, there's sellables on this event, there's sponsorship deals and all the other stuff. But I think the people who are eating the most off this are players. They're getting introduced to new audiences. Their personalities getting to be known on some level, and they're getting to appeal to just entirely new fan bases that ultimately, again, they're the ones who are really benefiting from this. Their followings are growing. People are tuning into their streams to learn directly from them. And there's just a lot of net positives around here that to the point where I think in Japan, it's almost unfair to compare Street Fighter 6 to other fighting games in terms of how this has worked out. Whether it started organically or not, it's playing out in a way. Some of these guys, unlike some players in the West, and to be fair, there are players in the West who have done this too. On Sajam Slams, you know, you see players like SK, who Brian F was working with, some of the VTubers that Sean was playing with in the recent Sajam Slam for SF6, they're still playing. And what I want to see is more of that. That's something you should value. That's something you should treasure. That's something you guys at home, you should reward. Y'all talk that talk, but when people pull up who aren't inside the circle, they start to play, they feel something, and then they keep it going, you guys got to reward that. You guys got to put props and love on that. That's really what this is about. But I want to point this one out too. At the end of the event, I'm not going to try to not show who won, but Shaka, this is the organizer, and again, one of the top streamers in Japan. Before a year or two ago, he wasn't known for fighting games at all. I don't consider him like a legacy fighting game player. He just got into this shit, and he's running one of the most important events for this game in Japan this year. And so he had an original goods that was put up as a separate prize in this event for the best bout. He wanted to nominate a best bout, and he nominated YY, who you guys saw crying after the match against Mago earlier. And so when he gave him an opportunity to speak, this is what he said. Takagi also playing Blanca in this event. That's one of the younger players in this event as well. I think he's only like 20 years old or something like that. But YY teamed up with him for this, and this is what he had to say. So they triple mic him up. So something he said in his interview up until this point was like, they practiced really hard. It sounded like they almost came in as a sub, I think. Because again, remember, with Street Fighter League going on, with CPT going on, with these other events going on, I think it got kind of difficult for it to schedule. And that's probably why this ended up being run on a Monday night in Japan, by the way. A Monday night. And even though it ran over 2 hours, like some people had to leave early to make their last train home, this was a very successful event. I showed you guys the viewership. But the big thing is, he came in, and what he was saying in his earlier interview was that they only got to really practice for 3 days, and they went hard for 3 days. Really long streams, lots of practice together. They were playing in the practice room before this event, and he really, really got invested. He didn't want to do it, he said, unless it was with Takagi. And so they teamed up, they did their best, and what he said was, he's like, man, you know, I really wanted to like push this through to the end and be able to win this event. I wanted to take care of Takagi or like ensure that he became a man through this win or something like that. But he said, like, we couldn't get the job done, but if Shaka, if you host another one, I would love the chance to be able to run it back again and be able to seal the deal. Like I said, it's just it was just a great event, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. This is the kind of stuff that's going on out here in Japan, not just on the ground, but in terms of like the event space. It's more than, and this is just what we were saying last year. And I think a lot of people probably, you know, write off some of the stuff that we talk about out here with these events and with these communities. It's not just about your online or offline double elimination bracket. There's more to this stuff than that, and you guys can see the proof. It's in the pudding. And I'm not saying somebody has to go out and do this, you know, right now in the Western world and whatever, but you know, like I said, it really kind of reinforced to me, like, man, we should really support and reward the people who keep playing like that when they play in these kinds of collaboration events. Some people just, you know, they pick up the game for the event, drop it right after, and that's fine too, you know, that's on them. But it really makes you value, you know, the people who get into this stuff and they rock with us on it. That's all I really wanted to say, but this was a great event. It was really successful. There's a lot of crowd play as well. It was tons of fans in this event. But make sure you guys check out the archive and give it a look-see. Just look over the VOD, watch maybe the grand final. I highly recommend it. I'll catch you guys next video. I'll be dropping a lot over the next month. So with that said, you guys take care. I'll catch you guys next time. Everybody be easy.